Okay, everyone, so now that we've thought a little bit about comprehension strategies, we need to understand where we have opportunities to teach them. And teaching through read aloud is one really big way that we can do this. You'll be reading articles on why picture books are or can be a good fit for upper level classes, but read aloud doesn't have to just be limited to picture books. Reading aloud with students and modeling what high quality, fluent reading of disciplinary text looks like can be really helpful. So anytime we read something where students can hear us, that's a read aloud. But an interactive read aloud is reading aloud in a planned, systematic way. It is pre-reading the text before you get into the classroom with students, thinking about places where you can stop and share your thinking, and having a goal that includes sharing the content of the article and some kind of reading support. And there's the interactive read aloud, which is you and you alone having the text and just reading it for students, and then a very closely related shared reading, where you have a copy, as do the students, but you're still the one doing the reading, they're just following along. Both can work with Think Aloud, and we're going to focus on that aspect for the next few slides and for the learning journal. So your goal is to make sure you are stimulating that metacognition. You want to model what it looks like to think about your own reading as you are reading for your students. You want them to see your reader brain, to look at what high quality reading sounds like and what that thinking looks like when it's occurring. So at the highest quality of this experience, you're going to be explicitly teaching. You're going to be demonstrating. So that means you're the person who is taking on the cognitive load. When we look at models of learning and models of supporting learners, gradual release of responsibility is one that gets brought up a lot, where at the beginning of learning, you should have the lion's share of explaining what to do and showing how to do it, gradually removing your support, the support of you as a coach. So interactive read aloud is still very high up with you controlling what exactly is happening and how the thinking is occurring. So you start off by explaining the strategy and why it helps you understand what you're reading. And then you demonstrate, so show, how to use the strategy while you're reading. And this is important, connect to why it helps you understand the text better. You want to have them understand that it's not doing it just to do it, it's doing it because it leads to deeper understanding, which then leads to you understanding the material better. Something else you can add in to read aloud or shared reading is tracking that thinking in some way, either by having an anchor chart, and this is an important type of anchor chart. It's an anchor chart that's only partially complete. So you might have the content goal or some type of critical thinking goal that you want students to be working towards, and then below that or next to that, you have space to, as you are teaching, capturing your thinking. This can be on paper old school, or it could be on a smart board, it could be, projected from a presentation. It doesn't matter exactly how you do it, but including that visual writing element can increase students' understanding of what you're doing and help them retain the goal of what you're doing. So, this week, for your learning journal, I want you to try reading out loud. If you haven't spent a lot of time around young kids, there's a good chance you haven't read aloud in a sustained way for a while. So it might feel uncomfortable at first. And the best way to handle that is to practice by yourself or with a friend. Either way, what I want you to do for the class is I want you to read the first 4 or 5 pages of a disciplinary text. Remember that disciplinary texts are those used within your discipline. So they're not the textbooks you have about becoming an educator. They are texts situated in your discipline. Outside of the school setting, they are the types of texts that would be used by professionals in your discipline. So you take a disciplinary text and read aloud. Sometimes it helps to read silently first and then read aloud. Either way. But you're going to look for places that you could stop and think aloud about or with one of the comprehension strategies that you've learned about. So you could try inferring, especially if you're reading fiction text. You could try making connections or determining what's important. wherever it is and whatever you decide to do, the goal is for that place where you stop and think out loud should be a place that helps you understand the text more deeply, or is a place where you recognize that the text could be more confusing and you want to be able to work through that understanding and that confusion. So after you have done that, you've selected your text, you've read aloud once or twice, you practiced thinking aloud, so making your own reader thought process explicit and saying it out loud. Then I want you to reflect on that experience. And that's the part I want in the learning journal. I want your reflection. Remember that reflections connect in some way. So don't just summarize for me how it went. Connect it to something bigger. How you feel about teaching, how you experienced teaching in the past, what you think about read aloud on the readings. This is a learning journal, so you don't have to make direct connections with citations. But if you do see something that connects really clearly to some course material that you engaged with this week or last week, feel free to bring that in as well. All right, if you have questions, let me know. Have a good week.